Now, I know what you're all probably thinking. Father Martin, where in the world did your accent go? And how did you get so short? But of course, I am not Father Martin. I'm not Father David. I'm not Father John Mario. My name is Father Danny Herman, and I am the new associate pastor of Sacred Heart. And I'm thrilled to say that today is my first Sunday celebrating the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass with you all today. I hail from the most northeastern parish in our diocese, all the way up in the mountains, and ironically the town is called Mountain City, Tennessee. And my home parish is St. Anthony of Padua, where there is a whopping 100 registered families. And so that means if I were to multiply my parish by maybe 30, we might have a fighting chance against you guys. And if we were lucky, we could probably fit about 4 or 5 of my home parishes in this behemoth of a cathedral. My goodness gracious, it is beautiful. I can still remember the first time I visited the Cathedral of the Sacred Heart. I was coming to visit the vocations director. I was not yet a seminarian. And the vocations director at that time was Father Joe Reed, who was also an associate pastor here. And I was trying to convince him that I was worthy of an application to become a seminarian. And as I entered from the narthex, from the very back, I was struck by complete and utter awe and beauty. Everything from the ceiling to the dome. All my favorite saints, you can see them right now. There's Damien of Molokai, Jose del Rio Sanchez, St. James the Apostle, the baldacchino, the altar, even the pews, the confessionals, the side altars, everything. This place is absolutely incredible. And I was fascinated by every aspect. And every now and then, if I were in the city of Knoxville in between seminary semesters, I would come in, go to a daily mass, ask to serve, because I was in love with this area, this beauty. And so when I found out that I was being assigned to this Sacred Heart Cathedral, I was incredibly happy and just in total shock that I could be so blessed to serve in such a beautiful area and get to know people like you all who worship here too, and hopefully I'll get to know you as the years go on. But I have to admit that after I was assigned here, I also felt a little sense of fear start to creep in. And it wasn't because there's over 3,000 families and 10,000 people here. It has nothing to do with it. It does. But no, my crippling fear was that one day, I'll come into this cathedral to celebrate the most holy sacrifice of the Mass, the most perfect moment in the history of all time that happens daily, and I'll just go through the motions. Day in, day out. I'm afraid that I'll just go through the motions of saying Mass, that I'll go through the front door, forget to notice the ceiling, forget to notice to look for my favorite saints. I'll even forget to say hello to the many saints in our reliquary, especially my patron, Jose Maria Escrivá. I'll walk right by them and not say hello. And I think that this is a fear that can affect anyone. Not just here, not just this cathedral, because unfortunately there aren't cathedrals like this all over the country. But no, I think everyone, at a basic level, I think everybody, every Christian soul, that there's a fear that we'll fall into some sort of complacency. We fear that one day we'll just go through the motions without taking a second look at the underlying cause of the reasons why we do the things that we do as Catholics. We'll go through the motions of entering into this space. We'll find holy water somewhere. It's always somewhere. We'll put our fingers in it and we'll cross ourselves. We'll do so without remembering what it's for. We'll genuflect before we get into the pews, forgetting the reasons why we genuflect or who we're genuflecting to. We'll proclaim our faith through the creed from memory, but never wonder what the word consubstantial means. We'll go through the consecration, hear bells, and not wonder why in the world we're hearing bells at this moment instead of the moment beforehand or the moment after that. We'll even walk through the communion line without examining our conscience. We'll receive Holy Communion in our hands in a haphazard way, and we'll wait our turn to go back to our seats. We'll still follow Christ. We'll still say we follow Christ. We'll listen to the words of our church. We'll still say the prayers that we learned in our youth. We'll follow the Beatitudes, observe the commandments. We'll make sure to go to confession, at least on a semi-frequent basis. Even listen to the right podcast from time to time. But deep down, we know something. We know that we're simply pressing upon Jesus, and we're not touching him. In today's gospel, we hear of how Jesus is surrounded by a great multitude of people, more people than there are here today at the 11 a.m. Mass. Men and women hunting him down in the streets. He's just gotten off the boat from healing others, from the terrors of the sea. But people hear that he's around and they want to find out the next thing that he's going to do. What's the next miracle? What's the next thing? And St. Mark describes it in such detail that Jesus is being pressed. Pressed. For anybody who's left a UT football game, you know what it means to be pressed when a great crowd is leaving kneeling. You're just trying to get to your car without bumping into somebody or getting squashed. You don't understand who's beside you. You just know that there's a lot of people. But how many of us are like these people who just press upon Jesus and do not know why? We're simply following the crowd because we're told that this man is good, that it's good to be around him, and that he will lead us to a good life. How many of us have fallen into that complacency, my brothers and sisters? But St. Mark in his gospel gives us another way of approaching Jesus. And it's through this way of this woman who is wounded, who is suffering from hemorrhaging. And nobody can heal her. Nobody can fix her. She has nothing to fall back on. She has spent every penny on doctors who have let her down time and time again. But she has this great faith. And she reaches out and she touches our Lord. She touches our Lord. She doesn't press on him. She touches him. With humility, she recognized her woundedness. And she approaches our Lord in a way that she saw as appropriate. Because she knew that if she had touched him, that she would make him unclean in the Jewish purity laws. She knew that if she touched anybody in that crowd, that they would also be unclean according to the purity laws. So she's very careful. She's very careful. She's very humble. But she acknowledges the wound within her first, and humbly she approaches our Lord. My brothers and sisters, we are called to be like that woman. We're called to be like the woman who risks it all, to humbly recognize our own woundedness, each and every one of us. We're all called to go out and touch our Lord, not simply press upon him, but to touch him. And this act of touching him has a word, and that word is conversion. It's conversion, not simply the conversion from either being an atheist or a pagan and becoming Christian or Catholic later on, or even leaving the Protestants to become Catholic. No, I'm talking about a daily conversion where our souls are constantly being examined, where we're constantly looking at how conformed we are to the gospel, how conformed we are to the virtues that our Lord preaches, and recognizing that, yes, we are wounded, all of us, but we worship a God that heals. He doesn't fix us, he heals us. We're not machines, we're human beings. We need to be healed. And this woundedness can occur for so many different reasons. We can be wounded by our own sin. We can be wounded because of the way that the world has treated us. We can be wounded from circumstances beyond our control. Death, illness, death of a loved one. But regardless of any wound, we have great faith and understanding that the one who can heal us is begging us to reach out and touch him, not simply press upon him. Not simply going through the motions, but deliberately examining our consciences and going to him. And we can begin this right now. It doesn't have to be a resolution for next year or for upcoming Lent. It can be a resolution right now, right here in this Mass. Because we can prepare our souls as we prepare the altar. And we can make an offering of ourselves just as this woman made an offering of herself. And so, my brothers and sisters, I invite you today to begin that conversion, that daily conversion, to look to our Lord and say, Lord, I need healing, and only you can heal me.